everybody, and welcome back to Gregtech New Horizons. How's you guys' day been? Good? Let me know down in the comments below. So, last episode we upgraded ore processing. Our old setup was just not able to handle the amount of resources our new space elevator is generating, and it's generating a lot. So we've upgraded now to the integrated ore factories, and these guys now seem to be keeping up no problem. We set up 6 of them, which are clusters of 4, and they are running different processing lines to process the resources. Like this one is doing macerate ore wash thermal macerate. This one here is doing macerate ore wash sift. These are doing the chemical bath. And then over here, this one is just doing like macerate ore wash macerate centrifuge. I did actually build a 7th one, and this guy is set up the same as the first one, just to help it get through the backlog of resources that were left over. And it has completely run through everything, which is amazing. And you can see we're getting thousands of resources in at a time, and it processes it up immediately, which is so nice. And actually, I've upgraded the actual space elevator a bit more by adding 3 more space mining modules. And these guys are mainly set up for getting infinity catalysts, but they get a bunch of other things as well. And now if we look at our ME system, yeah, it has so many dusts. We have hundreds of millions of dusts, which is amazing, especially for infinity catalysts. Look how much we have. 185 million dust. Now we can craft as much infinity as we want until we have the DTPF, because then it'll become a lot cheaper to make it. Like 1 stack of this guy will make like a whole stack of infinity ingots. So I cannot wait. So the plan for today is to finally start bees. Yes, bees are something I've been putting off for a long time, and now that we're at the point we are in the game, I wasn't sure if it is even worth doing them. So I made a community post asking you guys, should I or shouldn't I do bees? And well, you've all voted for a yes to do bees. So that's what we're going to do today. There is a few things we need to do for bees, and it's probably going to take me a few episodes. But today, we're just going to be working on getting ourselves an alveary, so we can start running a couple of bees to make a few materials. Mainly the quest line up here, getting ourselves the imperial and the industrious bee. These two together are actually what are used to make the alveary, and then I'm going to get those set up in another alveary to produce even more combs so we can make even more alvearies. So to begin, we need an apiary and a couple of different bees. And where we're going to be setting this up now temporarily is up over here, because bees require certain conditions to work. Where I will be setting them up permanently is in actually our personal dim. And I've been doing a lot of work in here. I've been expanding the farms. I've been upgrading the processing of all the drops from the farms. And these guys are actually doing other stuff as well. I've moved all the centrifuges and electrolyzers that were set up in the top of the autocrafting building over to here as well. So these guys are doing like all the stuff from the Everglades. And then over here, we are processing salt water. Because salt water is used for getting chlorine, and chlorine was something I was really lacking in. Well, looking at it now, we are completely maxed out on chlorine, so that is amazing. But over here is where we're now going to be setting up the bees permanently. I was considering doing the whole hexagon thing that I see everybody do when they do bees, but I decided not to do it. I was going to do it, but I decided not to. And now I've got little cubicles here that will set up our alvearies in once we have them. And I have a lot of cubicles here. Now we're going to fill them all up, so I might remove a few once we actually get the ones down we want. But we will also be using the mega apiary, which can only be used with certain bees. So yeah, those bees cannot work in an alveary. It'll have to be done in a mega apiary, which we'll probably set up over in the back area over here. So we're going to be starting in the overworld. Reason being is because, like I said, certain bees require certain conditions to run. This place is a jungle, because that's the way we configured it when we were making our crops, because the crops like the hotter environment, but unfortunately bees do not. So if we put down an apiary right here, it'll actually show us our climate. We are running a normal damp. And the higher up in the world you go, the lower the temperature is, but the damper it becomes. So we're at a very high humidity right now. So the bees will not like working in these conditions. But that won't be a problem once we get the alveary, because you can add modifiers to it to increase or decrease temperature and humidity. So we need to start in the overworld, because the overworld in the biome we are currently in is a normal, which most bees can work in. So let's grab this chest and start up over here. So to begin, we're going to need our apiaries. We're going to need oblivion frames. Oblivion frames, you can be found in strongholds. I found 3 of them in the one over there. I think I found another stronghold somewhere north. So So I need to go explore that and see if we can find any more Oblivion frames. But we really only need the one if you're careful, because you can repair it using the Stomach Restorer. So the Stomach Restorer, I'll just set up right here temporarily. Okay. And then for our apiaries, we're going to set them up right here. We're going to leave these two empty. And then this one, we're going to be crossbreeding in. And we're going to use a world accelerator to speed these guys up. So Oblivion frame go in, world accelerator right here. I have a glass roof on top to protect it from the rain. And this is UV, and it's outputting 8 amps, and I've connected up to an infinity wire just temporarily running up through here. So it's transforming from UHV to UV, and then we should be able to plug in our world accelerator, no problem. And now the hives are being accelerated, which is kind of important because it is very slow otherwise. So what the Oblivion frame does is it makes the bees only live 1 bee tick, which is 27 seconds. So with the world accelerator, we can reduce that time down to 1 tick. So if we look at the quest right here, the first bee it wants us to breed is a common princess. So that is going to be a meadows princess and a forest drone. And this guy right here. Breeding these two together should give us a high chance of giving us a common princess. And also it is nighttime, so let me sleep. And the other thing that the Oblivion frame does is make the bees not produce any comb. Otherwise, we'll have this guy here filling up with random different combs. So this makes it so no combs are being produced and their lifespan is only 1 bee tick. And you can check all that information in here. So the Oblivion frame will destroy a bee in a single bee tick, 27 seconds. So we want to combine the Meadows Princess and the Forest Drone, and now we have some other things. So we didn't get a common that time, but one of these guys here now should be a crossbreed, and we can check that if we make ourselves a Beealizer. So the Beealizer needs to be made in a carpenter. I've added everything we need. So it needs 4 diamond screws, 4 tin casings, a display, and a microprocessor, so LV circuit. And this just is the template of the recipe. You have to actually supply the items in here, and it does require a little bit of molten redstone, about 4 dust worth. And there we go, we have our Beealizer. So the Beealizer requires honey drops to work for each scan. So I have a small bit in here I managed to get from villages. A lot of the stuff I have is just from finding it out in the world. Otherwise, trying to craft everything right now would be kind of annoying because you need combs to make the bee house. And then the bee house is used in a carpenter to make an apiary. You could use an assembler, but yeah, you still need more comb and seed oil. So just finding them out in the overworld is a lot easier. And anyway, a lot of the stuff is found in villages. You know if the village has a forestry building, if it has a different colored roof than everything else. So like this was our first forestry building. I've already taken everything from it, but you can find like scoops and different bees and stuff in here. And also you can break these hives out in the world for combs. And luckily, the Vajra does work as a scoop, so you can actually like just directly get everything, which is really nice. So I already have a ton of bees, so we're not going to go out and collect any. But if you're looking for a particular hive and you can't find it, I think in the quest book here, you can buy different hives. Yeah, there's a whole section of them down over here. So like there's the Ender hive, does cost some coins, but as you begin bees, you'll gain coins for doing quests. So back over here now, let's scan ourselves our first bee. So these bees actually, I'm going to put back in here and as well as the comb. And I'm actually going to grab another chest that we're going to use to store all the bees we're crossbreeding now. So let's scan ourselves our princess now and see what it says. So it is actually a Meadows common crossbreed right now. I'll explain all of these things later, and we're not really going to get into all the different stats of the bee now. We'll do that next episode when we're doing like proper mutations. Today, we're just trying to get started. So we have a common. This guy is now a Forest Meadows, and he is a Forest Meadows. So let's continue crossbreeding these two together. Now it's become a Forest Princess. So we want to crossbreed these, and now we have a common drone, but it's still a Forest Princess. Oh, and we even got ourselves a cultivated drone. So if we scan the princess now, it is actually a purebred forest. So we went from meadows to forest. So we just want to keep crossbreeding these together until we get ourselves a common princess. There we go. Now, is it a purebred? It actually is. So that is the quest complete. So next up then, it wants us to crossbreed a common and a forest to make a cultivated. That's why we're getting cultivated drones. So let's continue breeding our common drones together. He's common forest, he's common. So these are purebred ones. So let's put these in here and let's breed a couple of drones together. Now, some of them are not going to stack because they'll have different stats, but majority of them should stack once you get like a decent supply of them going. There we go. 22 extra common drones should be plenty. So now we want to crossbreed the cultivated and the common princess. Now we got ourselves a cultivated. We'll just do this a few times. Oh, we lost it, but we should get it back. Yep. And now we're getting a bunch of cultivated. So that means our princess should be a purebred now. Yes, it is. Okay, we have the quest. And now we have a bunch of extra cultivated drones. So next up then, it wants us to breed a diligent, which is cultivated common. So we'll grab out a few of our common drones and breed it with our cultivated princess. We got a noble. Okay, we're still looking for diligent. And now our oblivion frame is about to break. If it still has durability, you're better off repairing it immediately, because I think even though it'll have like 2% left, if you use it, it'll be consumed. And I think the same thing happens in the alveary. Even though it has one more cycle, if it breaks during that cycle, you don't get any outputs. So you want to make sure you repair it well in advance. So we're still not getting the diligent. Oh, there it is. Speaking of the devil. And now we have our diligent princess. Crossbreed these guys a few times. And yes, they are stacking, which is good. All right, cool. So now we have our diligent. Is it purebred? Yes, it is. Next up now is noble, which is cultivated common. Now, I don't believe we have a cultivated princess. So if I come in here and just grab out a random forest princess and we grab out a cultivated drone, we can actually crossbreed this guy now into a cultivated princess. Might take a few tries, but thanks to these world accelerators, it shouldn't take too long. There we go. Cultivated princess. Is it purebred? Let's scan it. And it's not, so a few more generations. Now is it purebred? Yes, it is. So now we have our purebred cultivated princess. Now it wants us to combine that with a common to make a noble, but we already had the one noble. So let's grab out a few extra commons just in case. So we'll breed these together. Oh, we got an unweary. That's another one we're going to need. Okay, we have our noble princess. Keep breeding these together. And we should have, yes, our noble princess. Cool. So now we have those ones. Next up then is our unweary princess. We just got our unweary drone. So that is diligent and cultivated. So we'll just grab out this one. And we'll make our noble one into a cultivated or unweary. Oh, looks like we lost it in that generation. What did it say we need to use to make this guy? Diligent, cultivated. Oops, and I wasn't paying attention and I broke the oblivion frame. So now we're actually generating comb. Whoops. Yeah, we need to be very careful because the crafting recipe for these guys is kind of difficult. And if I break the rest of these guys, I'm going to have to go find the other stronghold. So just be careful and pay attention. Because how fast this thing is, I'm just like clicking in and not paying attention. But we should have our purebred unweary now, right? Yes, we do. So next up now is to make a majestic, which is noble cultivated. So we'll grab our noble and our cultivated drones. Oh, there we go. Majestic drone. So breed these together. All right. Now it looks like we're getting some pretty decent supply of them now. So we should have our purebred majestic now, which we do. And now it's time to make the important ones. So industrious princess requires diligent unweary. So we'll grab out our unweary and our diligent drones. Actually, we'll grab the stack of 4. There we go. Industrious drone. We'll breed these guys a few more times. There we go. And now industrious. Oh, and it just turned nighttime. But is it a purebred? No, it's not. It's still diligent. There we go. Industrious. So now we need to make ourselves our imperial, which should be majestic noble. Oh, there we go. Imperial drone. Breed these guys together a few more times. Okay, surely it's a purebred now. Yes, it is. Okay. So now we have ourselves our purebred imperial and our purebred industrious. So now we just need to grab one of each drone. So imperial and our industrious. I think we'll go with this one. And now the extra 2 apiaries I set up, these are what are going to be used to process these guys down. So in here, these 2 go in, these 2 go in, and now they're going to start producing pollen clusters and stringy comb. Same for this guy. He's going to be making dripping comb and royal jelly. Now, it looks like we are going to be getting a ton of extra species with these. Even though they are purebred imperial, they have different stats. So like, for example, this guy here has a shorter normal lifespan. This guy here has shorter. And then this guy here is normal. So there's 3 different lifespans, but they're all purebred imperials. So they're not really any good for right now. Later on, we'll be able to manipulate all those stats, but we're not doing that yet. So let me grab out a chest and a few item conduits and a few filters. We're going to put a chest right here, put a filter, or an item conduit. We're going to add a filter on the extract, and this extract is going to be set up to filter only royal jelly and dripping comb. And we'll probably also give it a speed upgrade. So same thing for this guy. He's going to do stringy comb and pollen. So filtered extract these 2 items. And we'll also give it a speed upgrade. And then they will sit in there. And then on top of these guys, we're going to make it so that the princess is sucked out and put back in immediately. So what we can do is re-enable insert, extract mode, self-feed. So if we do the same thing again, insert, extract, self-feed, they will just constantly pull each other in and out until eventually all the drones start stacking together. At that point then, yeah, we're going to have some issues that we'll have to be careful of, because if the hive fills up, there's a chance that the princess won't actually generate and we could lose it. So for now, we'll just take out all the extra drones, and yeah, it looks like these guys are already stacking. And the cool thing is, because this queen was bred with a majestic, it now has a fertility of 4, meaning every time it runs a bee cycle, we generate 4 drones. So if we look at it right here, we have 19, and it should now say, okay, we actually got 5 there. Oh, and yeah, now they're starting to generate a ton of random flowers. Yeah, that can happen. And because their pollination stat is probably a bit high, flower type, pollination fast, yeah, these guys are going to be spreading flowers around here like crazy. Like if I just watch this for a few minutes. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So we check in here. Yep, we need to make sure our drones don't stack up. And he's already maxed out on drones. But you're not pulling out. Oh, right. I never told this guy here to insert. So that's why it's clogging up. Now we're getting the royal jelly and pollen clusters, right? Never turned on extract. There we go. So now everything is working according to plan. So what I'm actually going to do is all these extra drones that I'm getting, I'm not going to store in this chest. I'm going to store separately because these are all perfect purebreds. And as they're all stacking, it'd be good to keep them all separate. Apart from these guys, I don't know which ones of these guys are supposed to be stacking. So I'll give it the industrious and hopefully they'll start stacking these ones. Yes, they are. Nice. So these ones can stay in here. And that's the only thing about being in this area now. My inventory is going to fill up with random flowers that are not actually being placed, like these water lilies and ender lotus. Yeah, this is going to get annoying over here. Oh my god, it's only been a few minutes. There's so many flowers. But yeah, so now we'll just leave these guys run for a while, and we'll check back in a bit when there's enough now to make ourselves our alveary. So the alveary is a 3x4 multi-block. So we'll set that up in the void dimension once we have enough. So yeah, I'll see you in a bit. Oh, we're even getting regeneration over here now. Some of these bees can give you different effects. So if we were to scan this drone now, it has the beatificate effect, which gives you regeneration. Nice. And there's also more stats in here, but yeah, you can see like their climate needs to be normal, which is why we can't do it in the jungle biome. So yeah, I'll see you in a bit when we have plenty of royal jelly and pollen. Wow, this is fast. Also, actually, before we go, you can speed up their production by giving them different frames. Now, the frames shouldn't damage them, because there is a chance that the pristine stock could turn into an ignoble if you do something wrong. Like having too high of a genetic decay or too much of a production. But at this point, I don't think there's any chance of that happening in an apiary. It can only happen really in an alveary. But yeah, look how fast we are producing combs now. Wow, this is fast. Right, see you in a bit. Okay, damn, it's only been a few minutes, and yeah, we already have all the pollen and royal jelly we need now to make our first alveary. So, let's take all of this now, and actually, I'm going to replace this chest here with an ender chest, just so everything will end up in the ME system, instead of just sitting here. So, with that now, let's dump everything directly into the ME system, and we should almost have everything now to make ourselves an alveary. We're only missing one thing, liquid honey. So, if we look right here at the alveary, I apparently have unbookmarked by accident, but the actual alveary casing does require scented paneling, and scented paneling requires honey. And we can do this in assembler. We don't have to do it in a carpenter. So we need liquid honey, and it takes 1,000 liters per scented paneling. And we need 8 paneling per block, and we need 27 of these guys. So if I look up alveary in here, I've already set up this recipe here. When you craft one alveary, it gives you all 27 in one go. We just have enough pollen clusters and we just have enough royal jelly. The only thing we don't have is beeswax and honey. Beeswax is simple. It's just centrifuging all the combs this guy's been making. So let's head now into the personal dim and use that centrifuge that I set up over here to process some of that comb down. So if we look up comb, we have 400 and something dripping and just over 300 stringy. So I have an input bus here, but I'm actually going to replace this now with a stocking input bus. So it looks like I forgot to add an ME connection. So I need a wireless connector, which I'll just stick right here. and then wire these guys in. And I believe this guy is already set up with a wireless connector, so I should be able to just right click this, and yes, it's already bound. Perfect. So now if we turn this guy on, all that comb that we just put in there is already gone. That was fast. So now if we look up honey, we have a bunch of honey drops. Now I'm going to take out a few stacks of this here. I'm going to keep 4 in my backpack because we need this honey drops to actually use the beealyzer. And then the rest of the honey that we got, which is honeydew, we're going to throw over here through our fluid extractor. So in they go, and we should get a ton of liquid honey now. There we go, 46 buckets. Or yeah, 46 buckets, so 46,000 liters. But I don't believe that is enough. So alveary, if we look in here now, yeah, it needs over 240 something or 250,000 buckets of liquid honey. So unfortunately, yeah, we're not going to have enough just doing this method. But there is a better way. With the version 2.8, there is a new meteor that's been added with blood magic. So we need a couple of items, and that is actually in the nether. So in the nether, if you might remember, there is giant hives just floating around the place. There is wasps living in there, but there is also a chance for liquid honey to be spawning in there. We're not going to worry about trying to harvest that. We're going to try and go for something different. We are looking for the combs that are inside. So there is one right over here. So using my matter manipulator, we are going to do geometry, select a block right here, and we are going to select the entire thing and clear it out. And that should dump it directly into our ME system. Nice. So now if we look up comb, we should see a bunch of these honeycomb blocks. We're looking for this empty comb. Now we need to go back to the personal dimension, and I want to temporarily use this guy. I want to set this comb in here in the dehydrator, and then that will dehydrate it down into, if it'll do it, come on. Why are you not working? It's supposed to dehydrate it down. Oh, circuit 16. Yeah, into the actual modern version of the honeycomb. So circuit 16, there we go. Now it's done. I can remove that. And now we have the more modern version of honeycomb. And now we can use this in a sacrifice in a meteor to gain like 12,000 blocks of honey. Yeah, this is going to be a lot. So let's head back. Head up to our meteor summoning and summon ourselves a honey meteor. So nothing should be in the way. Summon that and throw one down. Now we have a whole meteor full of honey. And if I were to turn on the arcane boards right now, all of this would actually go directly into our ore processing subnet. I don't want that. So I'm just going to use my matter manipulator and claim everything into the main ME system. So I just need a few building blocks. So about here, nothing else should be in the way. So select that. Come all the way up over to the opposite side. Make sure nothing's been selected that shouldn't. Are we good? Yep, looks like it. Now we'll just put everything directly into the ME system. And it should leave behind that warded glass block that we have in there to catch the meteor. It shouldn't be able to move that. Yeah, cannot replace a remaining block because it's warded. But there we go. The whole meteor is now in the ME system. So if we look up honey, we have, yeah, a lot of honey blocks. About 13,000 of them. And a bunch of this empty comb, which we can use to make more honeycombs if we want to summon more meteors. But this should be more than enough. So grabbing the 2 of these, we want to now go back to the personal dim and throw these guys through the fluid extractor. And now if we watch honey in here, we went from having like 60k. Okay, give it a second. 1.3 million. Oh my god. Oh my god, that is so much honey. Yeah, we're going to have plenty now. So with all of that, we should have plenty of honey to make ourselves our alveary. And in terms of wax, actually, how are we doing on wax? Yeah, we don't have any. So what do we need to do to process the wax? We can centrifuge down actually that empty comb that we got. So all this empty comb, 31,000 of it, we can throw through the centrifuge right here for wax. So now if we look at the alveary, we should be able to craft it. Yeah, there we go. And yeah, we also need seed oil, but seed oil is something I've had for a while. If you remember with IC2 crops, I've been growing this rapeseed, and this gives me seed oil when you fluid extract it. So fluid extractor gives you 125 liters per flower. And yeah, I've been letting this run for a while. And if we look at seed oil in here, over 100 million buckets of it. I did have a lot more before, but since I'm trying to process in a quad a bit faster, I made a bunch more of this P507 stuff, which required seed oil for making the 2-ethyl 1-hexanol. So yeah, I did use up all I had, but we're back up to 106 million because I've expanded the farm. So The other alternative to rape would be probably peanuts. So you can use an Ender IO farmer to harvest peanuts if you don't have IC2 crops. But yeah, so now alveary, we want to craft actually 2 of these guys if I can. So let's say 30 blocks should give me enough for 2 of these guys. We're just missing a little bit of pollen. Okay, we'll just go with the 1 for now. And I've already set up all the patterns for it, but there we go. Instant 27 alvearies. And we can set this guy up right here. So he also does require a few slabs on top, and you can use any type of vanilla slab. So I'm just going to go with spruce. And there we go. The alveary is built. So now if we come back to the overworld, come up here and grab our queens. Oh my god, the system is full. That is so many drones. Fertility times 4 is insane. And we'll grab these guys. Oh, these guys actually finally started producing some extra drones. So yeah, we have a lot of imperial and industrious drones now. So I just want to grab a stack of each. So industrious and imperial. And yeah, we're good. So we don't need anything here anymore. I don't believe. Yeah, we don't need our oblivion frame because there's actually something we can do once you have an alveary that allows you to completely skip needing an oblivion frame. And I'll explain more about that next episode. But it's basically you can reduce the lifespan down using different stimulators. So we're going to be increasing the production speed of these guys because if we put these in, so industrious queen, it's going to say it's too humid. But if we look at the top, our effective production is b to the power 0.52 times 1.793. That is our production. And it's not high enough. So this thing will still take forever because we're not going to be able to world accelerate this guy. So we're going to need to add stimulators and a bunch of these dimetine electron tubes to increase that production to about 15.9 something. Because if you go over 16, there's a chance that it'll turn our pristine stock into an ignoble. But yeah, we have other things to worry about first. And that is because it is too humid. The bee climate here has made bees' wings too damp to fly. So we need to reduce the humidity. So this guy, if you remember, requires normal to work. So if I scan him, put you in there, and he is lifespan short. Short is actually good when we're crossbreeding, but when we're actually setting these guys up for a long production, we're going to want the longest, but we'll worry about that next episode. So in here, we can see we need climate normal, and humidity normal. So the way to reduce the humidity inside an alveary is by using something called a hygroregulator. And that is this guy right here. So if we read the quest chapter, it'll tell us by inserting either water or lava, we can increase the temperature but reduce the humidity. And then water decreases temperature but increases the humidity. Now, the thing is, it adds 10% temperature if we were to use lava trying to reduce the humidity. So hopefully that isn't going to be too bad. It might turn that normal damp into a hot damp. I don't know, but let's see if it can work. So alveary, we're going to want 3 electrical stimulators. We still don't have pollen. Where's all that pollen? Oh, wait, was it because the thing was full? Okay, what we can actually do is reuse some of the blocks right here. So we'll put the 6 of these away. We'll craft ourselves our hygroregulator and our electrical stimulators. We'll need 3 of these. And to power the electrical stimulators, we'll also need an alveary transmission, which I don't have annealed copper rods. Really? Okay, let's try that again. And now we should have everything. So electrical stimulators are going to the bottom right here. At the back, we're going to have our transmission once that comes through. There it is. And the hygroregulator will stick on the back as well. So this will be where we insert lava. So let's grab out a super tank and grab out some lava. So we'll put this up here and then we'll use a crystalline pipe. We could just auto extract, but I want to be able to access the block. So you are going to be extract insert. And you should see this guy is multi-block is too small. All right, because I need to put these back down. And now if we look in here, it is consuming lava, which doesn't seem to be doing anything. That has not changed the humidity down. Is it because I need to give this guy power first? Oh, wait, no. At the back now, in here, it says the climate. Oh, it changed now. So now it is warm normal. So warm is not good either, because if we put the industrious back in, it's still going to not work because it's too hot. So yeah, this is the thing about the alveary. You have to kind of balance the humidity and climate inside. but later on we'll be able to breed tolerance into the bees. So we're going to need to make ourselves a fan. So an alveary fan, and that requires more pollen and long lapis. Damn it. What about the imperial? Can you work in these conditions? No, it's too hot as well. Right, okay, I'm gonna have to go back and breed a bit more pollen. All right, now we have our alveary fan, which we can just place in the front right here. You can only place modifiers on the bottom 2 rows. You cannot place anything on the top row, and also the bottom middle block probably should always stay as an alveary, because this is the block that is used to read what is placed under the alveary. So certain bees will require different blocks underneath to be able to crossbreed or mutate. So yeah, you're better off just keeping the bottom center block always as an alveary. So now that we have a fan, we do need to give it some power. And the only power this guy can accept is RF. You could technically plug in an infinity wire from your Lapatronic supercapacitor, but it's highly recommended not to do that, because what would happen is this guy would try and convert EU into RF, but it doesn't take into consideration amperages. So all the amps that we would be sending out of that Lapatronic supercapacitor would actually be consumed by the alveary transmission, making it so there's no amps available for any other machines on the same line. So to fix that, we're just going to connect it up using our dimensional transceiver, which we already have power in, since we're using this guy to receive items out on different planets through our drills. So ore drills, we're going to make sure there's no fluids or anything, just receiving power. And I think by just connecting this guy right here, we should be able to push power into this guy, and it should be working now. So if we look in here, it is now a normal climate. So the fan reduces the temperature, and the lava back here decreases the humidity. So now the industrious princess should work no problem in here. But it has no flowers, of course, so we need to give it a poppy. So any type of flower should work. Now this guy is of course going to start spreading flowers everywhere, but yeah. No flowers. Do I need to break and place it back for it to recognize imperial? Oh, now you're running. Okay, cool. So yeah, he is going to be way slower than before, but what we can do now is use the electrical stimulators to increase that productivity. So we're going to need to make some dimetine electron tubes and iron electron tubes. So we're going to need 10 of these, which requires long diamond, okay, and we need 2 iron ones, which I don't have. Oh my god, I'm missing so many recipes. So now that these guys are crafted, we actually need to install them onto a circuit board, and that circuit board is an intricate circuit board. We're going to need 3 of them because you can only have 1 intricate circuit board per stimulator. So 3 craft please. And we're also going to need a soldering iron to install them onto the circuit board. Unfortunately, the Gregtech one does not work. We need to use the forestry one, so this one. So it requires a small power unit, and it also requires 2 steel rods, a steel bolt, and a little bit of redstone. Right, so now that we have our soldering iron, let's come over here now and set up our circuit boards for our stimulators. So we can see by default, the thing is b to the power 0.52 times 2318. Let's see what happens now when we max out the intricate circuit board. So you just place it up here, change it from electrical engine to electrical stimulator, and then you max it out with dimetine electron tubes. So now if we hold shift on this guy, increases production by plus 1.5. Also increases genetic decay by 50%. That doesn't really make any difference to us because our thing is pristine. There is no genetic decay. So next up then is another set of 4. And then the last one then is going to have 2 and then 2 iron ones. And that will give us a plus 1.5 and a plus 0.5. All the information is on the wiki. There's a lot of information, but just looking at the stimulators in here, it says dimetine increases the production. It says max 250 or production 250, max 1000. Yeah, I'm not sure. But somewhere, actually, yeah, it says it in here. Genetic decay is also increased by 50%, all of them. This affects how long until an ignoble bee dies off. But don't worry if your bees are pristine. So by inserting these guys into here now, which we can also see they are charged, we should see our production jump from 2 to 10. Now, the reason it hasn't hit 16 is because these guys don't have that high of a production. So if we were to scan our queen, we can see our production is slower. We want blinding speed, which is the fastest production these guys can have. But that is kind of hard to get normally. There is the whole genetics mod, which I'm not going to bother getting into. I think it'd be more fun to try and actually breed the stats we want into the bee. So we'll look at all breeding and stats and stuff next episode. But there we go. We have max production that we can possibly get at the moment. And they're set up in the alveary and they are able to work in a normal condition, even though this place is normal damp. So that is cool. So now I want to grab my second alveary. Actually, let me put everything away. Let's craft a new fan. We're also going to require a few other things. All right, there we go. So the other one now is set up. So if we look in here, we now are a normal climate. And these guys are running. We have maxed out our stimulators. And now this guy only has a production of 7.8. Yeah, that is actually really low. What's your production speed? Slowest. Yeah, and remember, this guy is set to slower. So this guy has the slowest production speed of anything. Okay, that's kind of annoying. But yeah, look how slow we're actually generating things now. So the same thing as before, we want to make sure we use an item conduit, probably on the side right here, set to self-feed. So extract, insert, self-feed, just to be able to pull the drones back in. And actually, another thing we can do is grab out a drawer. And if we stick that drawer right here, the excess in drones that are coming out can be inserted into the drawer. So we can put them in there. And then what we'll do is set this guy as a higher input priority. And then we'll set this guy as an insert only. So it'll try and feed everything back in before it try and gets up here. So any excess drones that are produced by the breeding cycle, it will store them in here. And then over on this side, we'll grab like an ender chest and we'll place this guy right there with another item conduit. And he will be set up with the filters. I'll have to go back and get the other ones, but he'll be set up with the filters for royal jelly and stuff. So extract, filter, royal jelly, and comb, extract. And yeah, now that should get placed in here, no problem. So I need to do the same thing over here. All right, there we go. So they are set up perfectly fine now. I'm just waiting for this guy to produce some extra drones. But yeah, everything here is working perfect. So next episode, we'll look into setting up like the genetic mutations of bees now in an alveary. That'll be set up right here. And we'll try and get ourselves the perfect breeder bee, which will have all the perfect stats. So everything that was in here, like if I just grab a random drone, scan it right here. So we'll have like the longest lifespan, highest production, pollination, doesn't matter what it is, slow is fine. That's just how fast it'll spread flowers around the place. Flower type, we want always flowers. Some bees do have some crazy requirements like the dragon egg. So yeah, that's going to be interesting. Fertility we'll probably want on the highest so we get the maximum amount of drones out of it. Territory, I don't know what that does. Average, not sure. Beatificate gives you regeneration. Doesn't matter what that effect is. And then down here, we want tolerance of the climate to be both 5 in each direction, both inactive and active. And then humidity, both also 5 in each direction. So it'll basically work in any environment. And then diurnal, nocturnal, tolerant, fire, and cave dwelling doesn't really matter. But we'll go for yes on everything because why not? So that's what we'll do next episode. So yeah, I'm going to call it there. So hope you all enjoyed. And if you did, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe if you're new, and hit that notification bell when you're added then as well. So without any further ado, goodbye.